Okay, I'm going live. Okay. I am hoping this is working like a charm. Oh, I'm such a dork. You guys get to see me live. There is no hiding it. Hi, this is so fun. All right, I'm gonna make my chat nice and big. Hey, you guys, right now, you guys that already got the link, this is going live on my YouTube channel. So if anyone wants to see it, they can jump in. But this is so exciting. I've not done this before. Can you tell? No guarantees that tomorrow it won't start the same clunky way again. That's just how it is. So I'm so tempted to like play the script of every other person who does lives, and it's like, type in where you're from. So what the heck? Let's type in where we're from while I take a drink from my glass of water. If this is for those who don't know me, I doubt that there's anyone in here just yet who doesn't know me. So maybe I should save that for later, but you're in the right place if you are looking for the Pro Primer. I'm going to go into why I created this Pro Primer idea. Basically, this is not my first time teaching the Pro course, which is birthed from people asking, how do you do what you do? And I love to talk about it because it's super easy. I talk about what I do, and I find it so, I don't know, transformative, amazing to see the paintings that I create end up on like a thing. It's really exciting. And it's something that I think a lot of us should get to experience. I'm a big believer in unique creative callings, whatever that may be. So I do believe that everyone's got a little something that they are being led to do and offer in this world. So this may or may not be for you. But in the past, when I have taught the Pro course, there was always this, I wish there were more of like an on-ramp, because there's some things that I kind of needed to get in a row before starting and thinking in this way. So that's what I wanted to focus on. The biggest shift from going from artist to be it surface designer, shop owner, wholesaler, interior design stuff person, because it is like the art part, putting art on your stuff. The biggest part there is shifting your mindset from not entirely, but a little bit, into thinking more like a designer, so that when you are in front of your computer, no matter what your feelings are about Photoshop, if you love it, if you hate it, if it scares you to death, that you can do what you need to do and get on out of there, because all of us want to get back to our art desk. So I want you to see like how simple it can be to create the work, and that's within the course. But before that, I think we need to start thinking a little differently. So I'm going to check the chat and see where everybody's from. We've got mostly Americans, but from all over the place. So that's pretty fun. Reno, Nevada, Atlanta, Georgia, Arizona, Ontario, California. I am in Rochester, Minnesota, which is a little south of Minneapolis, the home of the Mayo Clinic. I think that's pretty much what we're known for. We're the third largest city in Minnesota after Minneapolis and St. Paul. So it's pretty cool. And the art scene is pretty nice. So I do like it here. A lot of you already know that I'm Puerto Rican. So living in a place that's so cold is not something that I ever expected, but here we are, and we've very much made it home. So it's all good. I'm going to start my slides. Like every time I have to touch this, I'm like, is it going to work? Let's see. So I created a slide deck. This is very different. You probably also noticed that I'm in a different setting. I am typically in front of my art supplies behind me, and that's where I feel the most happiest for sure. So, okay. What I love about putting art on stuff is that it kind of becomes something that has its own life. So now I'm going to go into that intro. So I have always been that little introverted girl who, as long as I had my backpack full of notebooks and sketchbooks and some things to draw and color with, I was set. I started flying by myself since I was 3 years old. And all I needed was my backpack. I would always sit in the back of the car, even when I could sit in the front, because I just always wanted my backpack. And I'm starting to sound like Dora the Explorer, but my explorations were limited to the 2D page. And so I've always had art be a thing for me. Actually, when I was 5, my mom, single mom at the time, was going back to college and was majoring in graphic design, and she would have projects that she would work on. And so I had projects that I would work on next to her. So it was something that it's just always been a part of my life. But I discovered watercolor in high school, thanks to Mrs. Wagner. And I love it, love it, love it. Because it does so much that I can't take credit for, and people consistently give me credit for, which I love. But I went to art school, Savannah College of Art and Design. It was the only school that I signed up for. And that was because when I was a kid, I was watching The Little Mermaid, and I said to my mom, that's what I want to do. And she said, there's a school kind of nearby. We lived in Atlanta at the time, in Norcross. And it's in Savannah. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to Savannah Art School. And since then, I've learned more about what it is to delve in commercial art. So this is me representing my work to be licensed on things at a trade show. Very colorful, very over the top. You know, if I could do it again, I would do it differently because I'm an artist. So that's cool. It's fine. And I think, yeah, the art that you see on the right it was a greeting card at Trader Joe's a couple of years ago as a graduation card. And it is my favorite greeting card design to date. But like I was saying before, I only teach a pro course once a year because most of the year I want to focus on creating art. And when it comes to teaching, that's my passion, to help you get in your sketchbook more often. So I created this membership called Watercolor Bold because that's what I feel, what I realized we need more than anything is boldness in our work. So as much as I love watercolor, I want it to be represented well when it's on surfaces. And so back to here we are. I want to face the hardest question that a lot of us ask ourselves and maybe don't voice. And that is my art good enough? Like, am I ready? Like, is my work good enough to be in this realm of commercial art in whatever space that might be? And what I find is that we're looking for like a yes or no answer to that question. But it's not the right question, and we know it because we sense that that's not the right question to ask, but we keep coming back to it. And I would reckon that it would be because we've been asked that question a lot over and over again since we were kids, right? We've been taught to compare, who do you like the best? And so is a really good artist, and who's got the best work? I feel like we are kind of trained because there's only one of us and a lot of them. And how are we going to know if we measure up, if we're going to cross that line of being good enough? And then when you grow up, then it turns into maybe not, posting on the wall with a gold sticker, but we put something else that's gold around it. And this is what we assume, that the best artists receive all the attention and the awards and the opportunities. Nowadays, we would say from notoriety on Instagram or something, which didn't exist when I was that age. So it's not a yes or no. Is there a line? Am I on the right side of that line of being good enough? The question is what? So instead of comparing as we would in a classroom. And we can't compare because we are not in a classroom. So if you're going to compare, you're going to compare yourself to everybody on the internet. And that's a scary place to be, no matter what stage you're at in your career, in your art, in discovering your style. Because, and I say discovering your style because it's something that doesn't end. We just delve deeper in it, just like getting to know yourself. A lot of people feel hung up on, I don't know what my style is, but you will as you better understand what your best work is. So that question of, is my art good enough, becomes a series of what questions. And this is the first of them. What is my best work? Your art has a place. And the reason I say that is because I absolutely believe that creativity is something that flows through us, that doesn't originate in us. And therefore, it's got somewhere to go. And so what I want to talk about today is looking at our work and being able to self-assess, to critique when we don't have a classroom and an audience and a peer group around us to help us understand what is our best work, and to develop that skill better and better, to know what our best work is, and then to take it from there into our next questions. So that is day one. I'm not done. That was my introduction for day one. It would be a good time for questions, but I'm going to collect questions in the chat. Now, when we look at art, we have different ways to categorize it. I remember in art school, I would either love critique day or I absolutely hated it. And it depended a lot on the professor that I had. So the question would be, I mean, sometimes these critiques would be, I like it, I don't like it. And then sometimes the question would be, does the professor like it or not like it? And very rarely was it a valuable critique where we looked at these different elements that make art amazing. And it's not that every piece has to have all of the things, but drawing from each one of these is very important. Now, we're not going to delve into each one every time we are assessing our work, because what we're doing now is thinking about marketable art. Those are great themes for fine art. And when it comes to art that's marketable, that can go out into the world, I've distilled it into these three parameters to look at. And we're going to look at those now, so that when you look at your work, and if you've got it nearby, you can put it up and look at it and consider, how does it stack up with these parameters? So very broadly, and not because I'm biased, but because I'm biased for good reason, color is so huge, so huge. And when it comes to color, I think we all react to it. We all know it's important. It can be kind of scary sometimes, and we know what we like. But we're going to look at it in terms of marketability. And so I came up with these three ways to look at color. So we're not just saying, is the color good? Because that's not really gonna get us anywhere. But first, does it meet a result? So color is always going to drive some sort of result. When I look at my IMAX screen, just the colors of gray and black, they're not my typical colors, but it's almost like I suit up for a certain vibe, a certain emotion. And so ask yourself, do the colors in my piece achieve the desired result? The image on the right feels really cozy because those colors are warm. And the image on the left those colors are vibrant and tropical, and they're energizing. So your work, especially when it's on a product, because a product has a purpose, is going to need to help achieve that purpose. So it's going to depend on the purpose. And first, you need to understand, what are the emotions that different colors create? So right now, research and development is like super easy because you just ask and people answer. And so we attract the kind of people, the crowd, the audience that is probably going to resonate with our work anyway. So why not ask? how do these colors make you feel? And you don't have to be that blatant about it. You could say, when I look at pinks, I just feel X, Y, and Z. Is it that way for you? And you'll be able to kind of gain some insight about how color palettes make people feel. Those feelings are so very powerful, and they have such a place in the marketplace, which is why the art that's on the stuff needs to have the right colors for the desired result. Is the color on trend? So whether you follow trends or not, if you have a lot of feelings about trends, if you're like, I'm cool, I don't need any trends, whatever. I'm talking more about the trends that can transcend within a decade. So we're not talking about something that will come and go within this season. We're talking about, is it relevant? Like, is this just at least mildly cool, or is it kind of weird? So don't get bogged down with the question of, is this color on trend? Is this palette on trend? Oh no, these colors aren't cool anymore. Oh good, they are, so I can keep them in my portfolio. Like, as long as they're relevant, you're fine. And so a way that you can test that today is by watching TV or opening a magazine. So watch a show and consider, would your piece look good on the wall of that apartment, that studio apartment that broke cop has and somehow can afford in the heart of New York? Like, would your art hang well there? Would your art hang well, so to speak, or fit in well with a magazine spread that, you know, are Oprah's favorite things? You know, maybe it's, you don't have your art on a product, but just the piece as a print itself, like, would it go? For instance, right now, earth tones are huge, and not because of necessarily the earth, but because they're a variation of skin tones and some of the causes that we're interested in. Whereas before, browns probably weren't that cool, and now they're cool. So you'll start picking up on trends pretty quickly if you don't already. So now that you know, does this art, does this color achieve the result that this product probably needs, or that, is it creating the emotions? Is it on trend? Is it, you know, on trend, meaning like my friends aren't going to think I'm pretty weird for having a mauve toilet. I can rock a mauve toilet, but I don't know that most of my friends would love it. You know, that would probably not be on trend for most people. But once you know those two things, then you're asking yourself, okay, but does it work? So with the feelings it evokes, the color palette has a role that it's kind of forming. And this gets into a bit of product placement. So different colors work differently on different things. And this is when mock-ups come in handy. If you don't know what a mock-up is, it's basically like a fake picture of your art on the thing. And I'll teach that in the pro course starting at the middle of this month. But for the time being, hold it up to a pillow, hold it up to whatever setting you think that your art could go, and see if it works. All right, so that's on color. The next one, the next filter we're gonna run our art through is contrast. And I'm not really talking about contrast, I'm gonna be honest, because contrast is about light and dark, right? But when I think of that, I think of push and pull. So in this presentation, in this half an hour, I am talking about contrast being, is it interesting or appealing? Like there's something pulling me, drawing me, or maybe there's a tension between the two. When you look at your work, it'll probably fall in one of these two categories, and it's either interesting or it's appealing. And by appealing, I mean like pleasing. So let's first talk about interesting. Is it new? Like, have you come across something in a shop where you're like, this is so trendy. I'm not sure it's going to be cool next month, but right now, this is hot right now. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of Zoolander. Yeah, Zoolander. So hot right now. Is it different when you're looking at something in a shop and you're like, I can't find this anywhere. This is something that's altogether unique. This is different. Is it quirky? Like, does it make you chuckle or smile? Or would it make me say, I see what you did there? So these are things that make something very interesting, make the artwork really interesting. Is it rare or uses rare materials? So does it use metallics in a cool way? Like I see that with marbling now, which has, it's not anything new, but it's trending now. And you see a streak of gold placed differently than it would be, say, 30 years ago when, gold would be placed very meticulously on a piece. Or maybe use that typewriter from the last slide in the way that you create your work. That would be a rare attribute that creates interest. Now, some of you create work that is appealing or pleasing. It's more classic. So you've got some tried and true trends. This sweater is going to be cool for a while. It's probably going to get a hole in it before then because it's not that expensive. So it's something that's not jarring. It's classic. It's popular. You feel comfortable that, your friends aren't going to make fun of you for that because everybody loves whatever. And is it pleasing and making, instead of making me smirk or chuckle, is it making me just smile or feel chill? Was it fun? These are crowd pleasers. The medium even is something that is familiar. Maybe it's used a little differently, but it's pretty familiar. So that's how I'm talking about having contrast in your work, which really, at the end of the day, is kind of like interest. I could have changed it, but then it wouldn't be like an art term. So anyway, coming back to our main slide, the third thing that we're going to look at in our work, and I will do this one fairly quickly because this is something that comes together in the design process, usually more so than in the art creation process. So it might not be something that you see represented in your work in 2D right now. But when we're talking about rhythm, I'm talking about two forms of rhythm. So even if something is a standalone piece of art, or if it's repeated in a pattern, rhythm still plays a role. So in a standalone piece, you are in charge of moving the viewer's eyeballs around. Are you making them roam around nicely and fluidly in this nativity scene? Are you looking around? Are you providing pockets of interest to capture or surprise your audience? Is their movement just because of the way that the art is, it's dynamic, or is it like a harmonious sense of rhythm? Is it fun, balanced? Is there tension? So this is what I mean by rhythm. Basically, the beat to which my eyeballs move around on a piece, I'm going to call rhythm, and I want to have that in my work, whether it's a standalone piece or a pattern. Now, talking about patterns, obviously rhythm is important. I would call a pattern or the rhythm in a pattern like a dance. I feel like I'm dancing with these confetti balls. Don't drop the ball. Whatever the rhythm is, if you are creating a pattern that is sparse or linear or in a grid or in stripes, structured or sporadic, don't drop the ball on that dance. And that, again, is something that we talk about more as we're designing our work. And so that's why that's something that we'll kind of table until the pro course, but you get the idea of how your work needs to have rhythm, contrast, color. And then there were some more details in each one of those. And I tried to help you look at your pieces and not just jot down some notes and say, yeah, that sounds good. That's what I should do. But there were some ideas there, and I hope you captured them, of how to apply this to your work. Okay, well, all right, let me put this up against a magazine and see how it looks for the trend in the color scheme. And right off the bat, you might not be able to know. Close that magazine, go off, get some ice cream because I told you so, and then open your magazine again and you'll have fresh eyes to see it again. And I know that I need to do this constantly. And I say this a lot in my Watercolor Bold membership, where you might not like it today, but you might really like it tomorrow. So just sleep on it. And even if you don't like it, you'll be able to know and assess what needs some further attention. So is your art good enough? I bet it is. Honestly, on this call, I can't look at everybody's piece and you wouldn't want or need my stamp of approval or validation. I want you, and we all want ourselves, I bet it would be the best way to go, to be able to approve our work and stand on it and know that it is good, that it is good for this or that. My pieces might not hang in a gallery, but I can say that they are good for the purpose that they have been given. We just need to know what our best work is. So that's our first what question for day one in the primer. Tomorrow I'll talk more about the second what question, and I'll open that up a little bit more because I've been teasing about it a little bit already, because one thing just leads to another. But I want to be sure that you feel that you know that your work is absolutely suitable for something. And that is the next question we'll ask. What is it suited for? So the art that we use for one thing will not be used for another. So knowing what works well, what is the artwork that works well, and for what market is going to be incredibly powerful for you to move forward in whatever direction you want to take with your art. I know a lot of you create a lot of work and you're not thrilled with all of it, but that's okay. If you're able to discern what is the best of it and what you can really stand behind, we're going to push into that and move further into that to then find where it can be best suited. And the first week in the pro course is creating your collection. And a lot of these ideas will all come together there, and it's going to be awesome. But today, I think you have your work cut out for you. I'm going to take questions pretty quickly here in the chat. I just wanted to be able to have some like solid eye contact, not the weird like, hi. I'm looking at your chest and talking to you online, because that's what we do now. It's okay. So I've very much enjoyed this day one. I hope you guys got a lot of ideas in this pro primer, and I want you to take pride in the work that you're creating, because it is time well spent, and it's rewarding in and of itself. We don't have to do anything more with our art for it to be rewarding, but it might just have the proudest work that you have ever felt behind it once you use it in the way that that it was destined to be used. And that's what the pro course is all about. I'm gonna stop my share so you can see my face a little bigger now. Yes, I'm still looking at the green light and not at myself. So I'm going to look at some questions. If you think of anything, go ahead and ask it now. I will take questions on all 3 days. Today's day one, Wednesday, then Thursday, and then Friday. I think that Friday will probably have the most questions, as you're getting much more familiar with what are the things that are really pressing on you and you want to have them answered. So I'm going to take a quick look at the chat. I love that Holly said, please no mauve bathroom fixtures. So my grandmother-in-law, I don't know, she is 93 and taking it very well. It's amazing. But the thing that I don't like about the mauve toilet is not the color, although like that dusty rose, like I would want to like bump up that saturation a little bit or make it like more of a bubblegum pink, but it's cool. It's cool. I'd go with it, but it's so short. It's like, it's so low. I don't like that. That's not cool. So, Jane, I hear you. This is what you struggle with. And, you know, these are questions that we ask ourselves over and over and over again. So if you're waiting to not have this question anymore of measuring up. If you're waiting to not have imposter syndrome, you're going to wait a long time. And I think the further you walk in the road of seeing your work develop and really pushing yourself, because I kind of see my art like as a horsey, and I'm like riding it, and it's like propelling me and pushing me towards the next step. And I'll get better at putting that imposter syndrome in a corner and telling it to shut up when I need to. But I have to get on that horse. So Lauren asked, how long is the course? So last year I only did it for 3 weeks, because if you haven't noticed the way that I teach, I'm like, let's just get you what you need to know, get it done, and get you back into your groove. And I just really want to make things approachable and quickly for you to implement. But I think I needed to add a little more time. So this year I'm doing it for 5 weeks, and this week does not count. It starts April 18th, and the first week will be creating your collection, and we'll be talking about kind of the bones of the art business. We'll then go into creating repeat designs. I do it in Photoshop. I do not use much math. I do not go up to edit, fill, repeat, create a new canvas, paste it into there, see if it works. Oh, I want to change something. Okay, I'm going to go back to my old canvas, create a new swatch. Okay, put it over here, see how that looks. I don't work that way. I don't use pattern preview. It will be included in the course. I will show you how I do it. So it's like the fastest way, and also it's kind of a rinse and repeat way, because you'll find that you will get the rhythm of the dance a lot better if you're learning the same dance and then you move on to another dance when it comes to how many ways to do repeat. So Christelle asked, can you speak to the vector surface pattern design? Yes, like you have with opportunities in the industry, and it's vector. Yep. I will say right off the bat, I used to worry about this a lot. And I did learn the method of taking my watercolor paintings and vectorizing them. I think we've made that a word. I don't have to use air quotes anymore. Live tracing them, making them vectors so that I could use them in Illustrator to create repeats. I do it from time to time for some simpler designs, but by and large, I still use Photoshop, or I now use Photoshop, because I realized I didn't have to do it a certain way. Since then, and since ever, in my experience so far, I have not had to do that at all. Do I know how to do color separations in Photoshop? Yes. Do I know how to distill those colors into fewer colors so that I have different layers of selections and create different color palettes with the same design? Yes, but I've just not had to do that. My way of working is kind of quick and dirty and get it done. And then if we have issues, we'll face it. But so far, so good. Another thing is that when I've created artwork that needed the colors to be distilled, there was a designer who did it at the company. So like, I didn't even have to learn how to do that. So there's that. But the way that I print or have my artwork printed on fabric is through digital means. And I will have someone talk about this a little further who knows a lot more than I do, because there is a myriad of ways within that realm, and more work is going in that direction, because it is not only less expensive, but it's environmentally friendly than working with screen printing. So if you know how to create your art and then live trace it and make it vectors and make repeats, and you're happy with that, awesome. If you want to make sure that it has the original texture, because I know you can also add texture if you want to do that, but if you want it to look truer to your paintings, you will be using Photoshop. And then from there, then we can simplify it if we need to. So that's my way of working. I'm going to keep my art as much as I can like how it really looks, because honestly, especially when it comes to watercolor, What is cool about watercolor is how it does things that are unexpected. And there are so many fragments of like bits of color that need to be lost when it's reduced to vectors. And so is there a push to create patterns that are vector based? I feel it more amongst the artists than with the industry. But that's been my experience. And it also depends on the clientele that you have. If people are looking to contract you to create artwork for them, and they look at your Insta feed, at your portfolio, and they see vibrant watercolor work, they're likely not going to want to reduce that either. You know, it's like you attract the kind of work that you're going to be able to create, because what you're showing off all the time is the kind of work that you want to get. So I don't know if that answered your question. You're welcome to ask it in a different way. If there's anything that I missed there. Like I said, I am not extremely nerdy in those areas, and I admire the people who are. So that's why I have a handful of pro guest speakers in the course, because I also want to open up the minds of like what is possible. I don't like to just stand here and be like, this is how I did it and you can do it too. I want you to see how there are lots of different ways, especially with our digital age, where the world is becoming so small, where we can network and find even more possibilities. So Holly asked, how much work did you have before you put it out there as a product? That's a good question. So it's kind of like a chicken or egg question, right? Like, how much art should I have before I start putting it out there? I think a good portfolio size, and this will be covered in the Q&A after week 1, and that'll be a Saturday session. Personally, I think a portfolio should have at least 20 pieces. And when I say portfolio, it was funny because another artist who I'm sure most of you know asked me, or we were talking about portfolios, and I was like, I don't even know if I have a portfolio. And I know I have a portfolio, but when it comes to pitching or talking to clients, I don't say, here's my portfolio. I say, check out my website, like feel the vibe, feel like what you see, let's get more specific on what you want. And then I send them specific PDFs. This is getting all very technical and I don't really necessarily want to go into that, but having a bare bones body of work would be 20 pieces. Imagine going to an Etsy shop, to put it that way, and the store has 4 products. They might be amazing products, but you're going to have more trust in them, even if those 4 products are quadruplicated into 16, and you have kind of a picture, a variety to look at. We want to create kind of a world for people to jump into. And those are the kind of portfolios that you love. That's the kind of work that you love, when you see a person's body of work and you jump in and you're like, I get it. And that's what an art director does. And they may only choose one, but you want them to get it first. So how much time would we set aside per day or week for the course? How long do we have access to the course after the 5 weeks? I would set aside, I wish I had past alumni to answer this. And if you are an alumni and have taken the course, please do respond in the chat, because I want to be true to that question. The weeks vary, right? So if week 1 is about creating your collection, it's a bit conceptual. You might be opening up your drawers. We're going to start with 1 piece. So we're not going to create a collection of like 12, 24 pieces. I want this 5 weeks to basically be teaching you the way of working, and then you can fill in with more gaps. My only goal is to show you how to do it by having you do it, but you will not necessarily have to create all the work that you need in order to finish up well. After the course, I do offer kind of a mentorship program where we talk. It's called the Inner Circle, and we have one-on-one conversations where people can show me their work in kind of a chatting app. And then we meet quarterly, if not more often, to show our work to each other and have some FaceTime behind it. So all that to say, I don't know. I should have thought of this question. You guys are great. I would give it 5 hours, probably an evening or two evenings a week. Some weeks, the first week, we will have a kickoff Zoom call on Monday night, just goofing off and answering any last minute questions, getting a feel for each other's work. It'll be a social hour. And then at the end of the week on Saturday, we will have our first guest speaker and talk more about this portfolio creation thing, this collection idea. I used to be so scared of the idea of a collection. Like, does this go or does this not go? I don't know. Especially when you're dealing with traditional mediums and like there's so many variations of violet within this one swatch. So I get it. And so you're going to want to be there for those. The lives are also recorded, of course, because not everybody can make it. And some of the lives from last year, particularly the special guests, are included in this year. So you might want to carve out some Netflix time for that instead, to hear from the guests. And something that I want to say about the guests is that there are artists, art directors, and shop owners. And so they have a variety of perspectives, which is what I was going for. Really excited about including that. If I come up and if I hear from any of the alumni how long they spent and what they feel is actually required, I can answer that again tomorrow or the next day, because I'll be right back here. So cool. All right. I love digital printing, really opens up more colors. Yes, for sure. So I both have fabric designs on Spoonflower, and I have 4 collections that are licensed, and they both use digital printing. Again, I think that comes down to them looking at my work and saying, we can do this. So that probably has a lot to say. Do you use a Mac computer or a PC? That's a great question. I use a Mac. I'm a Mac girl, but all these programs, I mean, and just Photoshop are available for PC. They're subscription based. I believe there is a package for Photoshop and Lightroom that is $10.99 a month. So you do not need to commit to the entire Adobe suite, because we will only hang out in Photoshop. Now, if you want to set up your portfolio and use InDesign, you can look into that. You can always add on. So I would recommend just using the basic or the cheapest subscription on Adobe, and then going from there. And this will be the last question, just because it's nice and easy to respond to. Where can I find more info about the course? Super easy. So I have not divulged everything about the course, because I wanted to show this on the course page, the primer being step 1. But there is an ability to buy it and hear a little more about it on my website. And so that's watercolordevo.com/pro, P-R-O. Easy, right? Watercolor is spelt the American way, WATERCOLOR, Devo, DEVO, all one word, and it's short for devotions, not the band, /pro.com/pro. So cool. I'm going to do this all over again tomorrow. Let's see if I don't have to wear a sweater tomorrow. That'll be awesome. And so I'm trying to keep these lives to 45 minutes. I'm feeling pretty proud about that. If you took this or watched this and thought, I'm ready to show some work online and see, what do you think, Amaryllis? I think this is my best work because of the 3 things that you told me to look at. I think these things are developed. That would be a great exercise for you to solidify what you heard. There's not much of a point to doing things like this and listening and having podcasts and going to classes if you don't do a little something to help you remember what it was that was said. So if you want to do that or reach out to me, cool. It would be fun to see your work and to see how you are developing in your desire to take your art out there and give it a life outside of your sketchbooks. So I'm going to awkwardly stop this call because, again, this is my first time. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for being so nice. And I had fun. Maybe we'll do this more.